Casting. Whenever I heard about the Odyssey, all I could hear was the endless whining about the casting, and how Lupita Nyong'o shouldn't have been Helen of Troy, and how Elliot Page shouldn't have been cast as Sinon, because bro's shorter than Matt Damon. And also people just endlessly hating on how Travis Scott somehow made it to a Christopher Nolan film. Actually, so many people were asking about Travis that Nolan had to come out and write a full paragraph on why it is justified to have him in the movie. And after watching the film, I have only good things to say. Well, for the most part, I guess you're gonna have to stick around to see what I think they could have done better. And since you're sticking around, you might as well hit subscribe. Lord knows this channel needs it. I need to address the haters first, before the movie, because why are so many people disliking a trailer just because they don't like the actors? We all know that this is a Christopher Nolan film, we all know that these actors are well seasoned, and there must have been some deep thought in who to cast for what, so why can't we just grow up and enjoy a good story? I will admit though, Zendaya got paid like $8 million to do pretty much nothing but stare at Matt Damon for a couple of minutes. And there were probably better options than Lupita Nyong'o for Helen of Troy. But they don't have a big enough impact on the movie for me or anyone else to really care about. And if you care about so much, then just don't watch the movie. Anyways, rant over, let's get to the actual movie. I actually didn't watch this movie in IMAX. I know, boo-hoo. Clearly I didn't get the full experience. That being said though, there weren't really any scenes that made me feel I was missing out on a lot of the frame as some posters suggested. Every shot felt purposeful and whole, and although there may have been some details in the background that I might have missed, does it really matter that much? It was really interesting to watch some interviews with the cast members because they actually revealed how Nolan wanted to use as little CGI as possible and wanted to play with perspective in order to give the desired effects instead of CGI. There's one scene with the Laestrygonians, which are the huge giants in shiny armor, and apparently Nolan found body doubles for all the characters, and they were all near 5 foot, apart from Matt Damon. He didn't need a body double. Just kidding, he actually did have a stunt double, but it was a woman with some of the best arms he's ever seen. I mean, fair play, look at those things. And when I was watching the scene, it just felt so realistic and immersive that I genuinely felt that I could wander into the woods and find these guys one day. Just learning about the whole process behind the movie really just showed me how much of a masterpiece it truly was. Also, the scene with the pigs is gonna scar me for a long time. I mean, I recently watched Obsession, and that was probably on par with it. Apparently, once again, barely any CGI used. It was all animatronics and weird sculpted people. I don't even know. All I know is that scene messed me up. Let's actually get into the meat of the movie though, because I just want to get this out right now before I start. Either you get the movie or you don't. It's really as simple as that. Either you understand the basic premise and motions of the film and you actually pay attention for those 3 hours, or you give up halfway and end up saying, yeah, the film was kind of boring. The third act was something, I guess. I think with a lot of the central themes around survival, Zeus's law, and more importantly, responsibility, and the responsibility that Odysseus feels because of the actions which he took in order to win the Trojan War, there's just so much to sink your teeth in when it comes to this film. And if you really get the message, it does sit with you for a long time. Obviously, apart from what I've said, there is a lot more to take from this movie, but those are the main themes, and honestly, it interweaves so many sub-themes that are all equally important to the plot without being too overpopulated. And I feel like that is an incredibly hard thing to do, especially with such a big story with so many characters and a runtime of nearly 3 hours. But Nolan just works his magic.
You're not magic.
Well, about as magic as your dad, mate. And he disappeared, didn't he?
And I think it really has to do with the amount of thought that he puts in behind every one of his movies, and how he just really understands his stories and knows the vision that he wants to put up on the big screen. He somehow managed to keep the essential beats of the main story while adding his own flair to it, and some might say this movie feels more methodical and precise, rather than woven together with different emotions portrayed by the different characters. But I feel like this is just Nolan's style. Most of his main characters are cold and aloof, even if they are meant to be heroes, and they're a reflection of the trauma they have faced more than anything else. It's completely fair to say that Odysseus wasn't the most inspiring character, but I don't think that was the purpose of the film. The Odyssey is all about a man who thought he could defy the gods, a man who wanted to control the destiny of his men and take responsibility for their lives. But ultimately, the control he thought he had was an illusion, and it's only when he lets go of that thought that he has any control, that he is finally forgiven, and his trial comes to an end. Alright, let's speed run through some of these problems. The pacing is obviously going to be a problem for some people. This is a nearly 3-hour movie, and Nolan is not exactly famous for rushing through his stories. There are sections where the film feels almost deliberately slow, especially when you're waiting for the next major mythological set piece. I also think the emotional distance of some of the characters can make the film feel colder than it should. The Odyssey is a story about love, grief, loyalty, temptation, and loss, but sometimes the films feel so focused on the ideas that the people inside those ideas become secondary. Penelope in particular is a great example. Anne Hathaway is obviously great, but there were moments where I wanted more from the character. This is a woman who has spent 20 years waiting for a husband while an entire army of men are trying to take his place. I mean, that's an incredible story in itself. But the film is so focused on Odysseus' journey that Penelope and Telemachus can occasionally feel like they're just waiting for the plot to return to them. And that's probably my biggest criticism of the movie. I wanted more of the other characters, even though I felt Tom Holland's character acted like he was 16 instead of like 22. I wanted to see the growth of Telemachus and Penelope, who is Anne Hathaway, and just more of the families of the people who died in the Trojan War. Because the movie is about the consequences of one man's choices, but sometimes it feels like we only experience those consequences through him. This is also where I would like to add the soundtrack to the conversation, because Ludwig Göransson's score is incredible. I mean, he did a great job in Oppenheimer, he did a great job here. It has this strange mixture of ancient instruments, modern sound design, and massive cinematic soundscapes. That scene with the Cyclops, it was so loud and like just amazing. I almost felt like I was in the cave with the Cyclops. But I have to admit though, I don't think the soundtrack is as instantly memorable as some of Nolan's previous soundtracks, although that might be intentional. Hans Zimmer's music in Interstellar is emotional almost immediately. You hear a few notes and you know exactly what you're feeling. The score in the Odyssey is much more distant and atmospheric. It feels like it's trying to create an ancient world that we've never really heard of before. And while I respect the ambition, there were definitely moments where I was waiting for the music to just take over the scene, and it never quite got there. Despite all those criticisms, I still think The Odyssey is genuinely a great film. And what I find most interesting is that some of the people who thought they would hate the movie before it came out, and were often arguing about things that barely mattered, once they actually watched it, they enjoyed it. How do I know that? Because I was one of them. Well, I just want to thank you guys for making it this far. Comment down below anything you want me to watch, anything you want me to make a video about. Like and subscribe. I've already said this stuff before, but people forget stuff. It's alright. If you forgot to click subscribe at the beginning, just click it now. And yeah, see you in the next video, I guess. Peace.